Top 6 Show, the original multi-club fan channel. Make sure you're following us now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description below. Six Show as we preview the weekend's Premier League action. The Manchester derby takes place. Spurs have an opportunity to go 5 points clear tomorrow night at the top of the Premier League. Chelsea, are they back? What are Arsenal going to do this weekend? And will the manager succumb to demands from some of the Arsenal fans about Odegaard's career and not career, but his starting position in the team? Plus, we're taking a little look at Liverpool's Thursday night game against a team that nobody has heard of. All that to come and much more, but please hit the like button. Please make sure you are subscribing to the Football Terrace as well. And before we start, because I don't want people to change their minds halfway through, the votes currently have it at 60% that Man City, that's where we're going to end the poll, will win the Manchester derby. More on that a little bit later. Brilliant panel for you today as well. Igao is here with us. We've got back by popular demand after a Monday night rinsing of little Larry. Is Kate, who is, of course, a Spurs fan. Little Tom is here with us backing Liverpool. Rory's here talking Arsenal. We've got man like Lewis back in the blue half for Manchester. And Don is here with us, who's probably like the cat with the cream after the way his team's been playing in recent weeks. But I did want to start with Tottenham. Because they have a chance tomorrow night to go top of the league and clear by 5 points. In terms of the game, Kate, are you confident of picking up those 3 points tomorrow night based on the way Palace are performing and the start you've had to the campaign?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a walkover. I mean, I've seen some Tottenham fans saying it's going to be sort of 5-0, 4-0. I don't feel that confident, but I do think we've got enough to beat them. I mean, it's a difficult place to go on a Friday night, under the lights. But, I think we will beat them. I've said 2-1 in my prediction. I think it'll be tightish, but they haven't got a lot going forward. And providing that we go ahead with an injury-free squad, I think that we should have enough to go 5 points clear at the top, even if it's just for a few hours.
I mean, always better to play first than it is to go second, I think, especially when you're on top of the league. Don, from your point of view, do you think that Palace will have much to threaten this Spurs team with, who have looked, fairly formidable in recent games?
Yeah, one thing about Spurs, they you can get at them. You can create chances against them. But I'm hearing Eze's injured. Obviously, Elise's still out. I think Palace have a few injuries right now, and they're struggling to score goals. So I think overall, Tottenham are going to have too much for them in attack.
Yeah. Anyone? There's two Gooners on here. Rory, Igao. Anyone fancying Palace here to maybe be the first team to beat Spurs this season?
Palace have to bounce back after losing 4-0 to Newcastle. You're going to see a better performance defensive. They're going to focus on the defensive side of their game, which has been probably the best part of their game. They've been struggling to score goals. That's where I can't really back them to get much from this game. But defensively, you could probably see a much better performance than what they did away from home against Newcastle.
Nah, I think if teams are going to beat Spurs, it's going to be teams that can obviously outscore them, but I think there'll be high-scoring games where Spurs concede more rather than... I just don't see Palace... I just don't see them offering enough in attack to cause Spurs' current defence any issues. So I think Spurs will go 5 points clear. And then it's actually... We dealt with this last year. Then in a few weeks' time, if you're not top of the league, it will have been that you bottled a 5-point lead, even though you'll only be there for a few hours. But that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's true.
Question for the panel. I'm not labeling this at Kate because we all saw Kate's video. We've all seen Kate shut it down. Are some Spurs fans starting to get a little bit ahead of themselves with this start to the campaign? Is it right that they're celebrating the way they are and talking about title races, or is it a case of slowing down? It's just 9 games. Relax. The media doesn't seem to be helping. There's an article in the Telegraph yesterday, or the day before maybe, that literally stated Spurs are no longer Spursy under Postecoglou. Don, is this a...
Let me jump in this first time, please.
Go on, Igal.
I just want to say, let the record show that it took at least 20 game weeks. It took after the World Cup for people to actually take Arsenal serious and say, oh, this team was good. And now 9 weeks, the media darling Tottenham are in a title race, and some people are even have the audacity to say they're better than Arsenal and Liverpool. It's like, I just feel like this whole thing is coming from because last season, Arsenal weren't expected to do much, and we did what we did. They think Tottenham can do the same thing or replicate it. And I just don't think they have the squad depth. I don't think they have the team that can maintain this throughout the whole calendar year. And it's early. New manager bounce still exists, but all of a sudden that's not spoken about. So
I think it's more than just new. I don't agree with that new manager bounce comment. I don't think it's that, you know.
It is, because with the new manager, comes new way of play, and people. It takes a while for them to figure you out. So
yeah, but what it is though, I think with how they play and how they've been playing and the players they've got, I think how they play with that 11 definitely going to be sustainable going forward. But let me just start off by saying I understand why a lot of these Spurs fans are quite giddy, because last year they went through hell. Same way that Chelsea fans went through hell, they did as well. Do you know what I'm saying? They were getting results at the beginning. We all said it's not sustainable. Conte was just playing horrible football. But overall, Conte was like the Conte that he was at Chelsea in his second season, very miserable and obviously trying to get sacked. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So I completely understand why Spurs fans right now who are getting a little bit giddy are getting ahead of themselves because they went through hell last year. But again, this is where you need to bring yourself back down to earth. You know, the sample size isn't large enough. Right now, you guys are playing good football. Again, you've got a very good 11, but like everyone here knows, Spurs haven't got that squad depth. As soon as Maddison's out, a key player, that's a big problem. Some of them will tell you Bentancur's going to come in, but I don't think it's going to be as effective as what Maddison's been for them. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at things like that.
You don't know that. You're just thinking that. You don't actually know that. He could come in and be as good as he was before. It's possible.
That is possible. It's true. But for me, how I look at it is that you're going to have a lot more tests to come up. And you have to see how you get through these adverse situations. You know, I don't think you've seen enough right now to be that confident to say we're going to be in a title race. Because number one, it's a brand new team. It's a brand new manager who's never managed in this league before. He's going to have, you know, tests and tribulations as well. And some of the games that I've seen of Spurs this season, especially in the second half when they bring certain players on, they've been lucky to leave with something. Do you know what I mean? So how I look at it right now is you're playing good football. Hopefully, as a Spurs fan, you keep that 11 fit and you potentially could be in that top four, I think, like securing it. But in terms of winning the league, Man City, Arsenal, even Liverpool right now, I'd probably say they're at a different level, man. Liverpool have been there, done it before. Man City are Man City, and Arsenal just have the squad to do it. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, I think, look, be happy with where you are as a Spurs fan, but just listen, remember where you are in it. Like, bring yourself back down to earth. Do you know what I mean? Don't get too carried away as of yet.
Was you telling the Arsenal fans the same sort of thing last season? Because I know Arsenal fans. I'm not saying after 9 games that you were all convinced you were going to win the league. I'm not saying that, but you did all get to a point where you thought you were going to win the league, from what I've seen, anyway.
It took until after like 20 games almost.
Right, okay. At 20 games, you've still got another, 18 to play. So were people telling you to calm down, or were they telling you to...
No, after 20 games, people were like, this team is serious. Let's see if they can actually maintain it. And they were still questioning us. But after 9 games, I'll tell you this, people were still backing Liverpool to finish above us, who at that point have dropped, like, I don't know how many points they dropped at the early part of the season last year. But forget about the Arsenal comparison. I want to get back to sustainability part. Do you guys think Tottenham have not been conceding a lot of goals in some of these games? Like, I know they've been playing well offensively, but defensively, they've been conceding goals to Sheffield United. You got Burnley, they conceded goals to. Of course, Arsenal, Liverpool, it's going to be a more cagey game. There's going to be goals in that game. But they also conceded 2 goals against Brentford early in the season. So they have been quite vulnerable in the defensive part of the game. They just have been seeing through the results based on their offensive play.
We say that though, Odegaard, but I'm looking at the table and they've got the second best defense in the league, according to the table. So
Sheffield United have also scored.
The thing is, everybody's
City one against, like Sheffield United have scored against good sides. Sheffield United have caused problems against good sides. Brentford away is
didn't score against us, baby. Didn't score against us.
He did. Sheffield United scored against.
That's all I got to celebrate. That's it. That's all I got.
No, like the teams Tottenham conceded to, the sides that score goals, like the fact of the matter is they've got, I think, 6 or 7 goals conceded. It is the second best defense in the league.
8.
It is 8. Sorry, it's 8. It's one of the best defensive records in the league. they've got a good partnership. The only thing that I think stops Tottenham at this point is the lack of depth, which should be addressed in the next couple of seasons by Daniel Levy and the board if they are serious about what this manager can achieve. Because this season, the same thing happened with Arsenal last season. You get an injury to a certain player and your depth is such a big drop-off. Problems. Now, I think there's an issue in Tottenham starting 11 anyway, and Richarlison, I think he's awful. And they've not really got someone like Brennan Johnson could be that, but he needs a bit of time. We don't know really if Manuel Solomon is going to be that fella. Richarlison is just Richarlison. But if Son goes down, if Maddison goes down, if one of the two centre-backs go down, there's real problems at Tottenham. If Vicario goes down, if Udogie, if Udogie goes down at any point, that's a real problem because Ben Davies is arguably the biggest drop-off in that entire squad, and they've got some big players in that team. But Ben Davies to Udogie is a massive one. So many factors there. Just going to
there's a lot of ifs there, though, isn't there, bro? Like, what about if they don't get injured? What about you know what I mean? If they do go in January and spend some money and get some recruits, like I think Spurs have got a good team there, and you know it's early days. But if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be buzzing. You know what I mean? You see some miserable stuff at Spurs over the last few years. I'd be getting gas. Listen, I think this comes probably down to January transfer window, just like it did for Arsenal. I think for me, Arsenal, one of the large reasons that they didn't win the league last year is because they, in my opinion, failed to properly invest in January. And I think that will be similar to Spurs. I think there's obviously more of a gap. I think Arsenal are a better team last year than Spurs are this year. But if Spurs are up there in the top 3 in January, then we'll see, won't we? On 1st of February, we'll see what business have they done in the January transfer window. If they go out there and spend money, then maybe they've got a chance. But I'd be pretty gassed, me, if I was a Spurs.
Let me ask you a question, Kate. Do you trust Son to be that guy to, like, let's say he stays fit, for example, yeah. Let's say he stays fit majority of the season, right? Do you trust him to take you all like across the line to win the league potentially? Let's say you're still in there after Christmas. Do you trust Son to do that?
I don't see us winning the league. I can't visualize us winning the league in any way, shape, or form, purely because I just think we would have to be so incredibly lucky to go the whole season without getting in any injuries. And like, I don't know all the names, sorry, because I'm new. But like you were saying, the drop off, say from Vicario to a Lloris or a Forster is huge. You've got Udogie, Maddison. If we lose these players, the drop off is massive. So, I mean, the telling part is going to be, first of all, getting through December because we've got 7 games in December, and then the January transfer window. Do I think Levy will backhand? Maybe in Levy's way, he will back him to an extent. However, I don't trust Levy to do enough to get us over the line. We've been there before, you know. We was there with Pochettino. We was on the verge of something incredible. Levy didn't back him and then went 500 days without bringing in a player. And this is where I get frustrated when you see our fans coming on saying we're going to win the league. And then they say to me, why aren't you happy? Why aren't you enjoying the ride? Why don't you trust the players? I trust the players we've got in the first 11. I trust Ange. I think he's a great manager and could do great things. I have absolutely zero trust in Daniel Levy and ENIC. Not only do they not spend, they don't change the wage structure to get the better players to come in. So my point isn't we're not going to win the league because I don't think we're good enough or because I don't think the manager's good enough. If we ever win the league, say we went on to win the league this season, which I don't think we will again, but if we did, it would be in spite of Daniel Levy, not because of Daniel Levy, in my opinion.
I understand why you're skeptical, but you know, like obviously last year, Levy, he sent out a few apologies and yours only, Daniel, and all of that. Yeah. Do you think potentially he's turned the leaf now, like to you know, push on now a little bit and just proven at the beginning, you know, no manager's come into the league and had a better start than him. So maybe he's done enough to say, listen, bring some money out. Do you know what I mean? Do you think that's giving you a little bit of hope? Maybe. I know Levy is a weasel, but you know, maybe a little bit.
You know, Daniel Levy is a fantastic businessman. There's no getting away from it. He is a phenomenal businessman. However, he needs to step away from the footballing side. You know, he's got Paratici, who's not meant to be doing anything, but is doing something obviously in the background. He's got Scott Munn, he's got Donald Cullen, he's got that Johan Lounge just come in. He needs to sort of say, right, you guys, you're going to be the team that look after the football, the transfers, this sort of stuff. I'm going to concentrate on building F1 carts and hotels and rejuvenating the area. If we see year on year, I'm not a staunch Levy out, not at all. People think I am because of how I was the other day. I'm not at all. I want change in the club in the fact that I don't mind if Levy's there, but just step away from the football side and put it in the hands of someone who knows how to run a football club, because he hasn't got a clue. And when he brought Paratici in, the idea was he was going to take a step back, but he can't help himself. He just can't help himself. He has to get involved.
Yeah,
he loves control. He loves control.
Actions speak louder than words. Anybody can make apologies, and yeah, in the short term, you can bring in a manager, bring in some signings, and it looks good. But it's all about what he does when there is injuries. What if they are 5, 6, 7 points clear in January and have the opportunity to maybe buy an Ivan Toney to bring more goals in, and they don't do it? Or, you know, in 18 months' time, a player who's killing it, suddenly City are looking at him and Real Madrid are, and Spurs decide to not pay the going rate in salary and they lose him. That's when you know they haven't turned a corner in terms of trying to win the Premier League, because you can't win the Premier League by consistently getting rid of your best players and not by signing quality to improve your squad. Those two things, the people that have won the Premier League and challenged for it on a regular basis have always done that. There's one anomaly, and that was Leicester City, but they didn't maintain what they started because they didn't continue to act like clubs, because they didn't have the money to win the major trophies on a regular basis. So I think any Spurs, the song "We've Got Our Tottenham Back," I said it at the time, I get the feeling when you've gone through crap for so long, the feeling of, it feels good to play nice football. But singing "We've Got Our Club Back," I think it's the wrong way. Your neck feet should still be firmly on Daniel Levy's neck. Metaphorically, of course, we're not advocating violence, but letting him off the hook that easy for me after like 9 games is strange, considering
So if you remember, that's
protest last year. Crazy.
That's what Arsenal fans were singing that game. Remember that first game of the season when they beat Fulham and Willian scored that game, or was it 2 assists he got, and they were singing "We've got our Arsenal back." Right? You don't sing things like that too prematurely, because anything can happen, man. It's a long way to go.
I'm not being funny as well. I mean, we've got our Tottenham back, as in what? Like, what's our Tottenham look like? That's what I kind of want to know, you know? Yeah, we're playing great football, but we've got our Tottenham back and we're playing great football, but we still won't win anything. I don't understand what that song's about. Do you know what I mean? I'm not deluded by any stretch of the imagination. Our first 11, I think the business we did in the summer was great. I think we've brought in some fantastic players, and Van der Ven, Maddison, real game-changing players that have made such a difference to our squad. But at the same time, we've got so much crap in the background. I mean, Dyer is still sat on our bench. Forster is still sat on our bench. Skip, Højbjerg, all players, they don't win you leagues, players like that. You know, and I'm not being disrespectful to anyone here that's young. Well, everyone's younger than me, but anyone here that's like young, like that young Harry was and Daniel. But they don't seem to realise that. They look at the first 11 and the fact that we're playing really well and go, wow, we can win the league. And it's great, you know, enjoy it. I'm not saying to anybody, don't enjoy it, but you've got to be realistic and say that when some of these key players get injured, which will happen, the drop in class is unbelievable. We saw it with Basuma being out and Højbjerg coming in. Such a different style of play, because Højbjerg's not the same player as Basuma, nowhere near. So this is what we've got to take into account.
What would you say the key areas are then in January to bring players in? Would you say what's urgent right now?
For me, we need oh God, I could go on forever. For me, we need another striker, because Sonny just disappears when there's a low block team. He can't play against a low block, in my opinion. We need a backup for Maddison, an attacking midfielder, something like that. We need another centre back for sure, 100%. And really, we need a better goalkeeper. But if we can get
it's about building depth.
It is. It is everywhere. It's going to take time.
One of the reasons why you might be all right this year is because obviously you've got no European football and you got knocked out of the Carabao Cup straight away. So until the FA Cup starts, you've only got Premier League. But obviously next year you are going to be playing European football. Obviously Spurs fans will hope that's the Champions League. I think that there is a desperation at Spurs as well for a trophy. You know, I mean, obviously he got knocked out. I think was it against Fulham? Guy put out like a changed squad. I don't think going forward, as good a start as Postecoglou's had, he's going to get away with that, because Spurs fans want to win silverware. So there's going to be even more pressure on stretching that squad next year. So it's about, for me, improving the first team, but also improving that depth, because as you say, the drop off is pretty stunning, really.
Well, we've got no competition for places. Sorry, Terry, I'll shut up in a minute. We've got no competition for places at all. You know, these players know they're going to play week in, week out because there's nobody there to challenge them for their place at all. Do you know what I mean? So we need to have that competition. But this is what I'm saying. It's the start of a project. It's 9 games in. Do you know what I mean? No one in their right mind anywhere thought that Tottenham would be top of the league at this point. You know, Tottenham fans certainly didn't. All I wanted to see was good attacking football and to try and get into some kind of Europe this year. That was my target for the season. So, you know, the ones that are setting their expectations up here are always going to be disappointed. Whereas me, you know, we're already seeing fantastic football and I'm enjoying watching Spurs again. And that for me, you know, is enough for the first start of the project. And I think we'll get Europe. So, yeah.
I don't think Tottenham will run into the issue of adding depth. There's the potential they could do because Daniel Levy is just Daniel Levy. I think the big part of Tottenham will come later on down the line if they continue on this trend, because it will get to a point where you've bought as many £30 million players that can improve your level as you can. When you get to the window where you need to go and break records, where you need to go and spend 70, 80 million pounds on footballers, that's where I will have the biggest critics of Daniel Levy, because every single team that has taken that next step into being title winners or title challengers has spent big in the window beforehand. Arsenal this year is the year where I think they've really taken that next step, and they had a Declan Rice. They had them, even though I don't think he's great, Kai Havertz, Jurrien Timber, spent big. I know when we took the step, we broke a goalkeeping record and a centre-back record. When City took the first real step under Pep, it was £200 million on fullbacks. People tried to take the mick out of him, but he went and revolutionised football. When Tottenham gets to that point, because I think Ange can get them to that point, with the football they're playing, with the core that they've got, they can get to a point within 2 or 3 years where they could be ready to take that next step. But if Daniel Levy still sticks by £30 million players, develop them, you'll never take it, because you have to have world class. You have to have the top players, and that's where I think it will fall apart, because I don't believe Daniel Levy will do that.
I think that I want to go to some of these super chats here. We'll come back to the points in a minute, boys. I just want to respect these. This here from Sam Lowe says Spurs are good, but some of their fans are hyped too early. I think I said this to Kate the other night on the show. I think it's some fans are just desperate to see other people praise their club. They want the sort of badge of my rival said I'm good. And I think it's so there's a desperation from a percentage of Tottenham fans, especially the young ones who may never have experienced it, who since they've been maybe on social media because their mum and dad let them, they've been bad. So suddenly it's, this might be the first time I get to see an Arsenal fan or a United fan or a Chelsea fan say Spurs are really good. And I get it. Maria Williams here says, I agree we ain't winning the league, but Egal, no one took Arsenal seriously when they said they were winning it. Lol. Also, big up Kate. Just waiting for Egal.
I literally echoed the exact same thing she said. No one took it serious until at least like 20 games in.
Afternoon, when Liverpool won the league, we waited until I think we beat Manchester United in January and then started to believe we were going to win the league, is what Dinesh says. Arsenal played Tottenham, United, Chelsea, and City. All other top six haven't played so many top six teams. PS, Spurs have played the bottom 4 teams. I mean, look, there's fairness to that. But at the same time, that's why, I mean, back in, again, I don't know why we don't do it. I typically don't start looking at the league table as significant until after the Christmas period.
Yeah.
So that's when everybody's played everybody at least once. And you kind of know more or less where you are. But you also you can always play these games because there'll always be a member of the top 6 that plays more of the games against the top 6, as an example, at home in the first half of the season versus away, 4-2 or something along those lines, including Newcastle in that. That also plays a factor, because I'd much rather play away in the early part of the season against Arsenal, Tottenham, City, and everybody else. And so in the second half of the campaign, you're at home because typically you win more at home. So it's a fair point. I agree. This year says, go Arsenal, Santi... Who?
Santiago Jimenez.
Jimenez to Arsenal. Thank you very much for that, bro. Appreciate that. Don, I hope you're enjoying Zola time, pre-Roman. Don was a baby, bruv. Like, no disrespect, Don. Don was like 5-6 years old.
I was young, man. Zola's before my time.
It's like saying Arteta, but you weren't a fan when Bobby Charlton was around playing. No, I weren't. I was in my dad's sack. Do you know what I'm saying?
What's Zola got to do with this anyway? I don't understand.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Oh, he's basically saying you're back in Zola time. Currently, Chelsea's not that good.
Oh, okay. I hear you.
Gotta love Kate. Come on, you Spurs, is what Martin Knightsbridge has got to say here. I think Spurs will struggle if teams go low block. Do you agree with that?
We haven't seen enough of this Spurs side, but that might be the way to stop Son. But let's see if Madison can find a key to unlock it, or what's it called, Kulusevski, because those two guys are going to be the keys to unlock those low blocks. And if they have good games, they can maybe do it against other teams.
Can I just say, doesn't pretty much every single team struggle against a well set up low block?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's just a Tottenham. If a team can set up a solid low block against you, you're always going to struggle.
Yep.
It's about beating them before they can set up the low block. You're going to need games where you can break it down, but it's not something that Tottenham should be aiming to do every game, because then you're just not going to play it every game. Low blocks are desperate things.
You're not, but the more Spurs keep winning, the better they get. The more teams will sit deeper against them. So I do think there's some relevance to that, where Jesse Lingard's always the player I use as in this example. When he moved to West Ham, same as when Joe Willock left Arsenal, went to Newcastle. Why did they suddenly become dynamite? Because suddenly they weren't playing against low blocks 95% of the time, and they had far more space to run into. Ashley Young always spoke about this when he joined Man United, and kids won't remember this, but he was the most creative player in the Prem 2 years running on the attacking left-hand side for Villa. Came to Man United and all these numbers dropped, and he was kind of questioned about it one time, and he basically said, when I played at Villa, I wasn't doubled up against by whoever was on the wing and the fullback for 90 minutes in a game, and the teams weren't sitting so deep. So suddenly he was creating less. So it's a harder job. And that's not, I'm taking nothing away from Tottenham, but the better you get, sometimes the harder it gets, because teams change. They adapt to how you play. Currently, there'll be tacticians watching Spurs saying, right, what are they doing differently? And eventually they'll bring in tactics that, Odegaard's going through at Arsenal. We're moving on to that later. He's being doubled up upon and pressed earlier. His job and Arsenal's job is now to work out how to evade that. That's why Pep's the best.
This
because every time he doesn't even keep a system or a way of playing. There's always a foundation there, but every 18 months, 2 years, he changes something so that people can't work him out. That's just football. I thought that was basic stuff, to be fair, but
I was going to say, Terry, that's literally what I meant when I said new manager, because it's going to take a while for people to get used to and figure him out. Also, Tottenham as a team are going to earn more people's respect, and they're going to play them a lot differently. And you're going to have to find different solutions in how to win games. That's why last year we caught a lot of people off guard because they didn't respect us from the year prior. Where this year, Tottenham, they might have caught a bunch of people off guard by smashing them in the face, hitting them with 5 goals like Burnley.
You know what, as well, just to come in quickly on that as well, if you think about when Leicester won it, like the year after, they struggled. Whereas, I think every game where Leicester won the league, everyone thought, we'll be the team to beat these. These aren't. But obviously, when they won the league, as Igal said, they then got the respect. And then the year after, and Arsenal are facing this now, and every team that does well the season after, I think they find it more difficult because teams respect them more. At the moment, the teams truly properly respect Spurs, and the Spurs fans won't like the answer to that. But if the answer to that is no, then that actually might benefit Spurs this season in how high they can get up, because teams will just be like, we'll be the team that'll open up the game, and we'll be the team that beats them, and actually Spurs go and punish them. So that's why they've got to take advantage of this season. They've got to take advantage of it now, because next year probably will be tougher. If
it's not even that. It's how we view them as a collective. We view them differently also. Because if this Tottenham team last season got top 4, they would have much higher expectations going into this season. The expectations were so low that what they're doing right now so surpasses their expectations that they deserve all the credit that they're getting. They deserve all the praise that they're getting, but just don't go too far. That's all we're saying.
I think the thing with Tottenham, though, and the reason why I will say that should they face more low blocks, they might be they might get away with it more so than other sides, is they have an immense set piece threat.
Who?
Christian Romero and Van der Ven for one of
but that's not going to carry you through a season, bro, is it?
No, I know that, but they're also not going to play against low blocks. And the idea of playing against a low block, I can only go off what my team done. My team struggled with them for years, but by playing against them more, you figure out your own ways of doing it. the advantage that Tottenham have is in games where they struggle to break it down, they have James Maddison who can put in a set piece arguably better than anyone in the league. And they've got threats in the box who can bail them out and get 1-0 wins, which other sides who face low blocks didn't have.
I hear you on that.
And finishing ability.
Yeah, this super chat here says every season pundits, fans, etc. say wait until after Christmas. This season, 9 games is enough to be contenders because it's Spurs, is what Anthony has
I don't
got
think
to say.
anyone's saying that. Just a few stupid Spurs fans, but I don't think anyone else is saying that. I do. I think it's being blown out. It's a very small minority that think we're going to win the league.
No, I hear you on that. Another fan base that's getting very excited at the minute, and I think there's reason to be, is Chelsea. Big game against Brentford this weekend. Are you confident about the match, first of all, Don?
Yeah, I think right now we're building a little bit of confidence. Again, certain personnel like Palmer playing really well. Mudryk, he's starting to pick up a bit of form as well. So the only thing that I look at with Brentford is their set pieces. So I expect Poch to probably go back to 3 centre backs for this game to add a little bit of height in our team. He'll probably bring Disasi back into this game. Probably see Levi back at left back as well to help with the set pieces there and the long balls that Brentford play. But I think this game we should be beating. We should be beating Brentford, man. This should be another one where we get that W, and we're playing at home as well. So yeah, it should be a win for this one.
I think Chelsea's a really, really interesting story at the moment because they're actually playing all right at the moment. Like obviously, you're seeing the game Chelsea versus Arsenal at the weekend. I thought Chelsea were exceptional and should have won the match. But you look at it again, similar to Spurs. They got no European football, and I still don't know what's going on with the 5th place. That gets given to England, and they could potentially sneak in the Champions League. I don't think it's completely unreasonable to suggest that they are in a top 5 race to maybe sneak that position. Obviously, they're a few points behind now, but football can change very, very quickly, right? And I look at the way Chelsea are playing at the moment, and listen, I wouldn't want to come up against them. I think that they're playing really, really good. Palmer is a killer. I told City fans, I said I watched this guy develop through the academy. I said this guy's a player, and a lot of City fans didn't like him and said, "Nice shit." And I told him, man, you're wrong. And he's gone to Chelsea and proved everyone wrong. Sterling this season has been fantastic. He's been immense. I think they've got a really, really sort of good chance. And I think at the moment they're sort of flying under the radar again because they're still 10th, and everyone's just like, "Oh yeah, it's still Chelsea from last year." No, it's not. It's not Chelsea from last year. And I think the longer that the season goes on, the better and better Chelsea will become. I think Chelsea.
I think the only worry for Chelsea though is, and I said it in the summer when they bought him, there's no trust in Robert Sanchez, and I think there's minimal trust in that back line. Whereas last season,
there's no trust in Sanchez. What do you mean by that?
I don't think Robert Sanchez is a good goalkeeper.
When you say there's no trust in him, trust from who?
I wouldn't trust him, and I don't think a lot of Chelsea fans trust him in the way that you would want to trust a Chelsea goalkeeper. I don't think he's at that level, and whether you like it or not, the mistakes he's been making bleed in. Just because they have not been punished sometimes doesn't mean they don't linger in certain minds. Right. I look at the defense so Chelsea last season. The issue wasn't defensively. You actually had one of the best defensive records in the league. It was. You could sit there in games for 4 hours and not score a goal. But defensively, you would not concede. Now this season, I think you finally clicked attacking-wise. Cole Palmer, Raheem Sterling, Brozier's come back in and been a bit more of a physical presence, a bit more of a threat in the box. Nicholas Jackson, I'm sure he'll kick on eventually, like in the same way that you want. Mudryk seems to sort of settle in. You've got the good attack now. It's the defensive side of things where I think there's you can get exploited a little bit. And
really? One of the best defensive records in the league so far.
No, I agree with Tom. I think actually your defense. I think next year I'd be surprised if Sanchez is your goalkeeper next year. And
Sanchez is up. Yeah, Sanchez. One thing about Sanchez, he's up and down. Like when he's good, he's really good. When he's bad, he's bad. Like there's no in between with him. His distribution statistically is up there, but it's very inconsistent. Like Tom said, there's been a few times where he's made similar sort of errors, like what he did against Arsenal. If you make that against a guy like Declan Rice, that's going to get punished. But there's been certain games where he's got away with it. So Tom is right in saying that. And one thing I've said about Sanchez is, listen, I'm going to give him a chance. Let's see how he gets on, this season. If we've got to go in the summer because he hasn't been able to prove himself, so be it. Do you know what I'm saying? But I've seen hit and miss performances from him. That's one thing. And I would like to see Petrovic come in as well. He's a guy that we signed from the MLS. he's supposed to be quite good. So hopefully when we play Blackburn, he'll get some game time there. We can see what he can bring. But yeah, you know, like Tom said there, he's bigged up, you know, someone like Palmer. This is something that I was speaking about in the summer. Everyone knows that Chelsea have gone away from the experience model, which I don't fully agree with, because ideally I would love to have experience in the team. But one thing that I've spoken about is the reality of the situation. The reality is we're working with young players. But what I did say at the time is, even though they've got a lot of potential, these are young players with a lot of quality. For example, if you look at Cole Palmer, there isn't a single person here that's mentioned his age once. He's 21, but he's got a lot of quality. No one here has mentioned his age once. And this is what I was saying at the beginning. Poch wasn't giving enough trust to these young players. You know, he was doing things that were incorrect, like playing Gallagher in a pivot, playing Chilwell left wing. These are all things that just wasted everyone's time, because everyone here could see that it wasn't working. But since he's reverted back to basics, put a little bit more trust in players like Cole Palmer, like I've said, Gallagher further up, you've seen that naturally we've started to build that chemistry, and the players are starting to play a little bit better. So yeah, 4 games unbeaten now. You know, again, for me, it's game by game right now. I'm not going to say Chelsea have turned the corner as of yet. I have to see how we get on for the next few games. Newcastle right now, we've got them coming up after Brentford. We've got Blackburn, then I think we've got Newcastle after that. They've got quite a few injuries right now from the looks of things. So potentially, you know, that could be a little bit banana skin.
Your next set of fixtures are real. This is why I mentioned the defense, because yes, you've got a good defensive record on paper right now, but you've also played a lot of the teams who have struggled in front of goal this season. Just off the top of my head, I know you've played Luton.
So we haven't got Newcastle. Sorry, we've got Tottenham. We've got Spurs actually. We've got Spurs after that.
You've got Spurs, then you've got City, then you've got Newcastle, then you've got Brighton, then you've got United. Back to back to back to back to back. I'm not saying that your defense is awful, but I'm saying that whilst your defense is is a bigger problem than your attack, because your attack is now free flowing, your attack's got confidence. Your defense, with Robert Sanchez in behind it, hasn't got that same level of confidence. These teams with like Tottenham with Son and Maddison can cut teams apart, can cut great defenses apart. Man City with fantastic wingers, Haaland can cut teams apart. Brighton, fantastic wingers again. A good striker in Evan Ferguson, great creative playing behind. Your defensive numbers are good, but I don't know how much of that is a false.
Yeah, no. Do you know what though, Tom?
Teams you played.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but when it comes to shot stopping, Sanchez has actually been good in terms of shot stopping. It's his distribution that's been suspect. I think he's got 3 clean sheets so far. Gusto at fullback, bro. We haven't missed Reece James. You haven't heard me once on here coming and complaining that he's been injured. We haven't been missing him because 1-on-1 defensively, he's been really good. Cucurella, he's looking at the Cucurella from Brighton again. And the centre backs, Thiago Silva's looking a lot better than what he did at the beginning of the season. Do you know what I'm saying? So defensively right now, we've got Caicedo in that pivot. He's acting as a little bit of an anchor. So I'm not worried about us defensively. We haven't been looking shaky at the back. A lot of the goals that we've conceded this year have been from silly individual mistakes. You know, it hasn't been our team being cut through. So yeah, I get what you're saying in terms of Sanchez and these little mistakes here and there. I do get that. But overall, bro, these how we're playing right now, we should be scoring enough goals to get away with making an individual mistake. For example.
No one's arguing the goal scoring side of things. You should have scored more goals than you have done this season. But you just explained it yourself. The silly individual errors.
They need to cut it out.
Both goals against Arsenal were individual errors. I'd say the goal against Burnley, while it was a decent little move from Burnley, should have been nipped early in the bud by Thiago Silva. Mistake. When I go back to Villa,
it was the whole back line, to be fair. That I wouldn't blame Silva for that one.
But then can you start to see why I'm going, maybe the defence is the problem? And this is just the goals, not even the ones where Robert Sanchez has bailed you out with a save or they've missed a chance. Your defence, to me, is the part which you can get at. I don't think your left backs are very good.
Can I interject? It feels like people are agreeing with that point about Chelsea's defence. When Gal mentioned Spurs' defence, who have conceded 8 goals and played 4 of the bottom teams in the league, everybody kind of shut Gal down. But Chelsea have played similar levels and only conceded 9 goals. Why is Spurs' defense not an issue or a problem, but Chelsea's is? I'm just a little bit confused by those two. Again, I think they're both fine as statements, but they both can't exist in the same universe at the same time, as far as I'm concerned. They're either both suspects at the back or both good at the back. I don't see how one can be good and one can be bad.
And just before anyone answers that as well, one thing that I've spoken about this year is our shape looks really good. And that's hats off to Poch. We look really well drilled. Every single person knows what they need to be doing off the ball. Like when Arsenal was beating them the other day, we were telling them, listen, you can't break us down. Do you know what I mean? Arsenal had no idea how to break us down until we gave that silly mistake away, Tom. So defensively, bro, I have to disagree. We've been good in terms of the shape that we're keeping, the position that we've been taking up on the pitch. Again, it goes down to the individual mistakes, but these are little things that you can take out of your game. When it comes to like playing it out of there, like don't be risky there, Sanchez. If you've got to go long, go long. Do you know what I mean? There's little things that you can tweak about that. I don't think it's as detrimental as what you're saying.
I got to get at is the fact that pretty much every goal that has been conceded by Chelsea this season has had blame leverage to an individual. Now, I understand you can say that you will eventually get rid of these individual errors, but when? Because if it's a different player every time, which it seems to be, then it's a deeper rooted issue. It is a deeper, because it's not Robert Sanchez has made 7 errors. Robert Sanchez has made 1 or 2. Thiago Silva's made 1 or 2. Levi Colwell's made 1 or 2. Malo Gusto got himself sent off. Ben Chilwell, and like when he was doing whatever he was doing on the left, he was making countless errors. There's so many of these where I can just look at it and go, it's a different player every time. Therefore, it's a bigger issue.
You're right.
And they're not getting wiped out.
You are right. You are right in saying that. That's why they need to fix up individually, bro. You're right.
Let me just back Don here. Don, I think your attack was the problem at the beginning of the season. I don't think your defense has been a problem for the entirety of the season. But the last game, you guys threw away the game. Now, with your fixtures coming around the corner, I was saying you needed to take capital at the beginning of the season. I said you needed to capitalize on your good start to the season because you had a good fixture list at the start of the season and you dropped points there. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to drop points against Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, and Manchester United because expectations are going to be lower for Chelsea. And as we've seen against Arsenal, when expectations are lower and they're facing a team that has to come at them, you might benefit more from that with your team having more space, more ability to create without a team's main goal being stopping your attack and then wanting to play their own game also. So these tough fixtures might actually benefit your attack and you might see more open games than you would against Brentford in this last game before you face the tough games.
Exactly. And even like right now, we haven't even got our strongest team on paper. I hate looking at football on paper, but it's the reality of the situation. You've still got Nkuku to come back. Like the guy here has just said, you got Badiashile, you got Lavia. These are all very good players. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's going to add more strength in depth when it comes to bringing players off the bench. Overall, in terms of our 11, as good as Gallagher's been, certain games he might not be able to start because he just hasn't got that quality on the ball, and then bring him off the bench, press teams out of the park before we finish up the game. So, when these guys come back, it would definitely give us more flexibility to go to a 4-3-3 or to go to a 4-2-3-1 certain games. So, yeah, man, it's looking good. We're building exactly what I expected us to do. And even at the beginning, when the guys were asking me, am I panicking? I said, I'm not panicking. These are little things that can be changed. And now Poch is doing that, and the players are taking more responsibility. So we kick on from here, innit? We kick on.
Yeah, Rory, in terms of the game this weekend, Brentford, it hasn't been a good start for them this season. Looking at the form table at the moment, they currently sit 16th, only 5 points from their last 6 games. They've got to go to Stamford Bridge. Can you make a case for Brentford getting anything out of this game, or is this just a case of a Chelsea must win?
Yeah, I would expect Chelsea to win it. I wouldn't write Brentford off. Like I said, they could go there, park the bus, get a set piece goal. But I am expecting Chelsea to win. And look, I think we've just got to give it a bit of time to fully judge Chelsea. I think they're definitely better than we were given, or I was giving them credit for. They're better than other people were giving them credit for. They've still got to prove it. Obviously, they've got this really tough fixture run. And we'll see how they come out the other side of that. But I mean, I hope they've turned a corner and they're going to hit a great run of form because they play pretty much every single one of our rivals in the next 6 weeks. So I hope they're on fire.
I hear you on that. There's a super chat here from Charles. This is Spurs' XG against is 12.35. Chelsea's is 9.9. For context, City's is 6.5 and Arsenal's is 9.5. Spurs also conceded another goal against Liverpool that wasn't factored in. That's kind of true, but yeah, it's because that shouldn't have stood. But again, that's sometimes where you just got to ride your luck sometimes because that game could have been very different if it wasn't for those poor decisions. But that's life sometimes. You win some, you lose some. Although we should be challenging those. Spurs can't suddenly go, right, let's make sure we lose a game to rectify it. They've got to keep winning. Does Don work in sales? He has made this Chelsea team sound like the 1950s Real Madrid team. He could probably sell headphones to a deaf person.
Hey, listen. I was talking about this team in the summer. I predicted we'll finish in the top. I said we'll finish third, but I changed it round. I swapped us and Liverpool round, and I was being called deluded and all these things. So I've been saying this from the beginning. I've been consistent in my takes.
You have.
I think you guys have done too much damage to be confident you're still going to get into the top 4 right now.
Like
Which
Terry
is why
said,
I was asking about fifth spot before. Though I think they've got a chance of sneaking into that 5th spot, man.
Because you can't sit here and say it's only 9 games and then write off Chelsea from getting into the top 4.
That's my point, Kate. What did Terry say earlier? I only checked the table like properly after Christmas.
One thing we have learned is, though, you might not be able to win it in the first 9 games, but you can definitely drop a lot of points that can set you back for the end of the season.
Agreed. I mean, I don't think any Chelsea fan thinks they're going to win it, but to rule them out of finishing in the top 4, I think is dangerous because they've got so many good players to come back. And, you know, they're at the start of a project as well. And Poch, whether you like him, hate him, you know, I can speak from experience of having him at Spurs. He gets things done and he gets things organised, and I think he will make Chelsea a really good team. It's just how quickly he can do it.
Let me just add to that as well. Last year in January, Gal, yeah, we was 10 points behind Spurs with a game in hand. Okay, and Spurs were 4th. I think, or they were 5th last year. We had a game in hand, and that was in January. So, bro, there's a lot of games to go, man. We're not even a quarter through the season.
No, I understand there's a lot of games to go, but I'm just saying dropping points against these lesser teams early in the season can set you back so much that come the end of the season, you'll look back and you'll say to yourself, we lost it by 1 point or 2 points. And you look back at the beginning of the season and say to yourself, this is where we dropped the point.
Yeah, but there's always going to have a slow start, though, won't there, Gal? You know what I mean? A lot's gone on at Chelsea over the last 18 months.
I thought they should have had a better start against some of these smaller teams.
Maybe that's true, but it was always going to be a bumpy ride to get going. That's why I said earlier, as the season goes on, they'll get better and better. And you know, no one expected them to get a point off Arsenal. So you got to okay, they should have beat some of the team that you said earlier in the season, but did you expect them to get a point off Arsenal? Probably not. So that's +1 on that, and really should have been +3.
There's reasons, man, and we can't ignore Poch starting Ben Chilwell at left wing, man. Like 2 attackers.
I think I'm being very fair here. They've lost 3 games and drawn 3 games already this season in 9 games, and we're acting like, oh my god, this team's turning a corner. Yes, they just won their last 3. They won. They got majority of their points in the last 3 games. Like, let's not act like this team.
That is what turning a corner is.
Turning a corner.
No,
lost 1 in the last 5.
Time Tom's saying that, you know, it's true.
My point is, they just started to do well. So this whole beginning of the season couldn't cost them come the end of the season.
It could, but I think it's one of those things that we have to wait and see. Dave here says, this Don guy keeps saying Arsenal didn't break us down. Low, can someone tell him we scored 2 goals and Eddie almost scored a 3rd?
Dave, your first shot came after 75 minutes. You didn't create nothing, until we threw the ball away, literally.
And we gave you a goal also.
Bro, why do Arsenal fans keep saying this about the penalty and the goal that we scored, with Mudryk? Go check the build-up play to actually get in that position. Let's not act like Sanchez just booted it from the back and it went in. Like, we were building up very well to get in that position to even get a penalty or to score a goal. So let's not ignore the build-up play.
Don, so the build-up play, good, but you don't put that down to so if a team does well as a week, build-up play is good, and then the shot is piss poor and weak, and a goalie lets it in. That's not a goalkeeping error.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously you can look at it in 2 ways. You can say it's a goalkeeping error.
No, you can't. That's never been done in Don. I've never seen a goalkeeper make an error that's led to a goal, whether it's not commanding his box or whether it's a weak shot that goes in. I've never seen anybody go, let's ignore that goalkeeper mistake and look at the build-up play and the lead into that goal. It was generally a good goal.
I'm not saying that, but the way what I'm saying is with how Arsenal fans have been kind of speaking about the fluky goals and that, it's like we weren't playing well, is what I'm saying. It's like they were better than us. That's the feeling that I get. But you are right when you say that. Obviously, it's a goalkeeping error. But when they're speaking about it, they're salty about how we were playing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that. I agree with that.
Just keep the same energy, bro. That's all I'm asking.
Cool.
I mean, if I wanted to nitpick, I'd look at. I've pulled up the stats here. Chelsea had an XG of 1.35, but 0.8 of that was a penalty. And yes, it was. I believe it is a penalty. I believe you put your arm in that position, you have a decision to make. But from just open play, Arsenal had double the XG. So they did create stuff, they just didn't do anything in the first half. I thought the second half was when it really kicked on, and they just took another step forwards when you opened the door for them. But after Mudryk scored his cross-come shot, whatever it was, Like, I'd say mostly Arsenal, and you just trying to hit on the counter.
I hear you. This is one of the super chats here. Sam Lowe says, have to hold my hands up and say sorry to Don. I thought we were, Arsenal, going to win against Chelsea, and Palmer bring out that City class. So I'm saying sorry.
Big you up, man. Big up, Sam.
Don't apologize next time.
I don't think you need to say sorry, man.
It does, man, because I was getting cooked for my takes on Palmer in the summer. I was getting cooked.
Jim here says, Terry, great panel, especially Kate, gorgeous lady, is what.
That's
Jim
my
says.
husband.
Ah, there we go. Hello,
Big up,
Jim. Hello, mate. You wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of your wife, would you, Jim? That's all I'm going to say, mate.
He's got a broken arm at the minute, and everybody jokes that I did it, but honestly, I didn't. It was actually a car accident.
Get well soon, man. Get well soon.
Jim, blink twice if you need any help, bruv. Blink twice. I'm only joking. Chelsea right now is like the LGBTQ plus. I'm going to make sure I read this before I go any further. They know about giving birth to a child, the case scoring and defending. Big up. I don't get it. I don't actually get it. I thought it was going to be offensive.
I don't get that.
I don't get it. This here says, back to earlier conversation, Liverpool will win the league because after the Spurs game, refs are scared to send their players off. Richie Sunak will ban red cards for them like XL bullies. That's funny. The Mudryk goal build-up was Ben White giving him the ball on the halfway line. It's like Don doesn't watch the games, is what Charles.
Bro,
that's true.
I'm specifically talking about the goal, that Saliba handball. Go check how we built up for that game, for that goal. Sorry, and bro, the way we pressed you lot to win the ball back for Ben White, we caused him to go backwards and lose the ball like that. So the game plan worked. The game plan worked.
It's swings and roundabouts because I thought Arsenal's build up for their second goal was fantastic. Brilliant balling by Saka, great play before, and then where's the idea that they didn't just press Sanchez?
But I'm not being salty about their goal. I bigged up their goal. I said that was a world class assist from Saka. I haven't been salty about their goal.
Okay, forget it. You know,
I picked them up.
This here says we fans didn't expect Chelsea to get a point, but the bookies sort of did. The betting odds were only slightly in Arsenal's favour. Chelsea aren't bad. I agree. I thought the idea of Chelsea being smashed and being easy was
I predicted a 2-1 Chelsea win.
Terry, where was the energy when Martinelli scored that fluke deflection against Man City? You were confronting Don on Mudryk's intentions for the goal. Well, I don't think the difference for me is that I think Mahalo Mudryk crossed the ball that went in because of poor goalkeeping positioning. Martinelli had a shot that I think was going in that deflected and still went in. So again, ugly hood rat. I think there's a fundamental difference between a mishit cross and someone who's shooting at goal. And if the shot wasn't on target if Martinelli's shot was as off target as the cross was, it wouldn't have deflected off a City player because it would have flown out for a throw-in. So it's not the same comparison for me, but I hear you.
Oh yeah, and Mudryk is so shameless. The goalkeeping guy told him something about that BS. I don't believe referee.
Raya does stay off his line though. He does. You know it as well. Raya comes off his line, bro, and he's short for a keeper.
I think they basically told him own it and say you did it on purpose because
players always do own it, but everyone who's ever kicked a ball knows. Just the angle where you see him looking over, you see what he's looking at. The goal's there. Again, maybe he's got eyes like a rabbit. I don't know, but anyway. Speaking of Arsenal. Before we talk about your game, which is relatively easy, Sheffield United at home, it should be a simplistic result for Arsenal. A lot of gooners online, a lot of gooners that were on our show the other night. Gibraltar is no longer his name. They're calling him Ghost Guard. They're saying that Odegaard's having a really poor season. Do either of you think that it's the time, Casper the Friendly Ghost and all that? Is it the right time to maybe drop him against a team like Sheffield United and maybe give an opportunity to a Smith Rowe to a Vieira from the start, or do you believe that starting your captain is the most important thing?
I don't think the captain thing massively matters. I don't think the captain has to play every game. I'd give him a rest more than dropping him because of form. I think he played every minute in the international break for Norway, including against Spain. He's the highest presser in the league, and I think part of it is that he looks tired. Against Sheffield United, you can probably get away with not playing him. But I think this idea that he's ghosting and stuff, I think there's a few factors involved why he's not at his best at the moment. And I think anyone that's calling him Odegaard that claims to be an Arsenal fan is just an absolute cretin. So I'd leave him alone.
Simply put, I'm just going to say the way that teams play us this season to how they play us last season, you can clearly see that his link-up partner in Bukayo Saka is getting double-teamed, and it's leaving him in a situation where he's more or less taking majority of the shots. And what he's being asked to do is also slightly different. Last year and the year before that, I felt like there was a lot more opportunities where we're asking him to be the guy who makes the pass or the pass before the pass, where this time we're asking him to take more initiative and take more shots and try to finish off some of our chances. And that some people might not like the fact that he's being asked to be more like a Frank Lampard and less of a creator, which he was in his first couple of years. Also, the Chelsea game was poor. The game away the other day against Sevilla, he was quite poor. But let's not act like he's been poor this whole season. There's been games.
He's been below average, bro.
No. That's false. That's false. There's been moments in the season where he still saved us and he's done his job. The thing is, he doesn't have to be the guy who wins us the game every game. People are looking at Saka and Odegaard and saying, why aren't they the match winners every game? Guess what? We have guys like Jesus. We have guys like Martinelli. We have guys like Declan Rice. We have a team of people who can also raise up to the level and win us a certain game. We don't necessarily just need two people to win us the game every game. And that's what I feel like sometimes people look
but Igal, you can't run away from the expectation that Odegaard's meant to be bringing to this team. Number one, he's your captain. Number two is your highest paid player. And number three, he had a very good season last year to the point where you guys were putting him in serious conversations, and if anyone brought up the whole conversation about Maddison or Odegaard, it was battered away. How dare you compare Maddison to Odegaard? Conversations like that. So you can't now try to run away and say, it's not all on him when he's meant to be the creative outlet in your team. And so far, like I put in a group chat yesterday, he's only created 2 big chances, If Arteta's telling him to shoot, as a player, sometimes you still got to take responsibility, bro. Like, I don't agree with this notion that Arteta's just telling him to shoot every time he gets the ball. I'm sure Arteta's probably telling him, listen, you need to start feeding the attackers or, feeding the wingers. I think there's a lot of excuses that are being made for Odegaard because he's one of the players that I've looked at this season and said he's been beyond the level that he was at last year, including him, Saka and Martinelli. I don't think they've been at the level that they were last year. So he's just not performing individually right now. He's getting a lot of the ball, but he's not. It's like he's not looking to create right now. I don't get it.
That's where you're wrong though. In the games that people are claiming he's not getting a lot of the ball, and this is where all of his underlying stats are dropping. So he's not getting a lot of the ball. A big part of the reason for that is no Thomas Partey. Rice and Jorginho, neither of them have the same level of ability as Partey does, as playing the ball between the lines and finding Odegaard. And as a result, I think because he's getting the ball less, he's trying to do more with it when he does get it, which is including more shooting. And that right-hand side at the moment is just it's a bit of a mess. Saka's getting
so the only way to unlock Odegaard is by starting Partey. Then he can't play with no one else. He has to play with Partey.
It's not the only way, but it's a factor. Obviously, we've not had Partey for most of the season, and there have been games where Odegaard's been very good. So and also it is opening up space on the other side. We saw against Seville, both goals came from that left-hand side. So I think you've got to look at more than the absolute top level stats sometimes and watch.
I mean, before the
I just want to say this.
I've watched all your games, Rory, this season.
I just want to say this.
Better.
I just want to say this.
This is what they do. They can't handle the truth about Odegaard. Seriously.
One second. I think we've both been very critical of the player. We're just merely saying that some people are going overboard. First of all,
that I agree with. Yeah.
And the second thing, when we're talking about big chances created, if he creates 4 big chances or 6 big chances against Sheffield United, are people going to say, "Oh, he's created 7 big chances this season? What a great season!" No, some of these stats you get them in bunches during games. Now, I personally want him to play against Sheffield United because I feel like what a better opportunity to get yourself back up and going at home versus a lesser team. Play this game, see what he can do. And if he's not playing well, we can take him off again. And then we're going to have big conversations if he's not playing well at home against a lesser opposition. But playing semi-poor against City and then having a poor game against Chelsea where their whole tactic is to stop and neutralize you, you got to give the opponent a little bit of credit. And then you also have to criticize the player.
He was crap against us as well, to be fair. I mean, we were told, Tottenham fans were told that you were going to smash us 5-1, 5-0, 4-0, 4-1. We got absolutely ribbed. People coming into my room, Sava's room, everywhere. Arsenal fans giving it large. Oh, Odegaard is miles better than Maddison, blah, blah, blah. Rice is going to smash Maddison all over the pitch. I didn't even see Odegaard that game. He was like invisible.
Hey, he picked up a yellow card in the 15th minute, and from there I didn't really see.
Do you know what excuse I heard the other day? Yeah, the excuse I heard the other day. I was told yesterday. Yeah, I was told yesterday. The reason why Odegaard's playing the way he is because he's pressing. So when he gets the ball, he hasn't got enough energy to do anything on the ball. That's what I was told yesterday by an Arsenal fan.
That's accurate.
Yeah, these are the excuses that you lot keep making.
I think you guys have to look at as Rory said, the right-hand side has not been clicking as much. But Bukayo Saka has been doing a good job, even though he's not been performing well, still getting GA in those games. But really and truly, the link up between Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, and Ben White has not been as fluent as last season.
Yeah. Also, Don, you can't just take one thing that one person. You can't just take one thing that one person has said and then say you lot are coming up with these excuses. One person came up with that excuse.
I'm not generalizing you guys. I'm saying that I'm hearing a lot of excuses about Odegaard this season. A lot from a lot of different people and different excuses as well.
I'm pretty sure if you check majority of Arsenal fans will keep it real and they tell you when a player is not playing well, as we both have right now.
Yeah. You guys have been honest. You
need to let him play through it. This is a byproduct of Arsenal gaining the respect that they weren't gaining last year. Because you've played well, like we were saying earlier, what happened with Tottenham, teams operate differently. Martin Odegaard was the top scoring midfielder in the Premier League last year. So teams are now setting up separate plans to limit where he's receiving the ball. He's not getting them in the same positions. I can remember about 3 times this season, and one of them was United, and he scored it. Look, I'm not going to sit there and say I vividly watch all the Arsenal games, but I can tell when a player is being marked out, this is where you need the others to step up. And so far this season, like has been said, the left-hand side has stepped up. The issue has been Martinelli missed a period of time. Martin Odegaard does need to improve. Martin Odegaard can't just sit there and have that as the excuse. That can go for so long. But he also needs to adapt himself and also pull his finger out and figure out, right, so if they're doing this, what do I do differently? People will understand that if your numbers go down, but there is still the same impact. He can still have an impact on the game without directly registering goals and assists by dragging people out of position. That right-hand side is so clogged and so disjointed because they haven't actually tried to move from there. You haven't tried to change what you've done last year. Someone needs to move out of there to create space. Odegaard might need to take up a more centralized position in general.
1 second. I actually think it's something different. I think it's because of you guys are going to think this excuse, but our front three hasn't played together many games this season. Besides that Chelsea game and 14 minutes at the end of the Manchester United game, our front three this season, which is Jesus, Bukayo Saka, and Martinelli, have not played many games together. And when them three are playing together, you can see our creativity and our way, the way that we build up and just the control of the game that we have is much better. And Martin Odegaard then has a much easier role where he has different people to play off of and a way to work. I think the best time that he's had this season is when either Kai Havertz was up top or Jesus and Saka were on either side of him. So he had more people to link up with. No offense to Eddie Nketiah, but when Eddie Nketiah's up top, you can see that we are not able to link up the same way with him.
Rory, so if you was to take out Odegaard from his lineup, Rory, who would you start? Who would you start instead of him in that position? Would you say?
I don't know. That's the thing. People are calling for Smith Rowe, but it's like there's no way you can tell me you've seen enough of Smith Rowe, even in the last 18 months, let alone this season, to say that he can come in. You've got Fabio Vieira, who I think is a good option, and I'd like to see more of. And then you've potentially got Kai Havertz, but none of them do the work off the ball that Odegaard does. And I know people say, he's a creative midfielder, like he needs to do more on the ball, but you can't discount the unbelievable stuff he does off the ball, which massively helps us.
I start him, Rory. What about you? I start him. I don't
Well, against Sheffield, I don't mind giving him a break because I genuinely do think he's probably tired, but I wouldn't drop him for more than a single game, and it wouldn't be because of form. It would just
you wouldn't drop him against Sheffield United, where the one game that he could potentially get his form back. You got Newcastle next weekend. Like, why on earth would you drop him?
Because he needs to play against Newcastle. Right,
but you're not going to. But he's in bad form, so you're not going to drop him against Sheffield
United. We play West Ham midweek. Drop him then.
But does he care about that competition? Is he going to play a rotated side and then he's playing with? I mean, you were just talking about how he's not been playing with his proper front three. So if he plays with a again and not a proper front three, then you're just going to give another excuse. Why would you drop him against Sheffield United, a game where he could potentially impact, get his confidence back ahead of a massive game?
I don't think he's low on confidence. I think if
whatever it is, but why would you drop him where he could potentially get that goal or assist that could give him that boost ahead of a huge game next weekend?
I don't think he needs a boost. I think he needs a break more than anything. If he's sensible, he'll look at. I mean, if he looks at Twitter, he'll look at the morons that are calling him Ghost of God and move on.
Problems at anything energy release. I think he. To be honest, I'm with Lewis on it. I would start him against Sheffield United, but give him a different role. Try and figure out what they are doing to neutralise him. And against Sheffield United, a crap team where he's going to have the opportunity under minimal pressure, or as minimal pressure as you're going to get in a Premier League game, Sheffield United at home, just let him go in that role and just see what he does. See if it can work. See if that can then cause doubts on open up space for others. Because Martin Odegaard not playing well will affect others in time. Because Martin Odegaard playing well pushes the levels higher. The sooner you can figure out what it is, whether Odegaard has to move or someone else has to move or a different player has to be brought in, whatever it is, you have to find it sooner rather than later. But I don't think the solution is to drop Martin Odegaard because no one else who can play that position has that quality.
No, but I just want to say the last 4 games that we played in the league, if I'm not mistaken, are Tottenham, Bournemouth, Man City, and Chelsea. And we're talking about him not performing well against the top teams in the league. Like, I know Chelsea's not a top team right now, but you get what I'm saying. One of the teams with quality. So it's like, I think we're kind of nitpicking here. I'm not going to go crazy. I think if we start to see these kind of performances against the lower half table teams, then we can be like, there's a serious problem.
Yeah, but what game would you say that he performed this year where you're like, wow, Odegaard really turned up this year? Because I'm struggling.
Manchester United, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace away. Like those games, he performed well.
I don't know. Bournemouth, he was okay. He scored a penalty that game, didn't he?
He scored a penalty.
Scored a pen.
Won a pen.
Yeah.
He was good that game, but Bournemouth, like I've said, that was your best performance this year, to be fair. But overall, man, the standard that he set last year, this is the thing. When you have a season that you did last year, people are going to expect you to kick on.
So you're judging him based on his expectations, which I understand, but not based on what he's actually done.
No, I'm judging him on expectations as well as his performances, bro. He hasn't been this, this player that you seem to be describing him to be this season. And I rate Odegaard. I really like Odegaard. Last year, I was raving on about him weekly, bro. But this year, he's been below par. He's been below par.
I think if the biggest conversation is about Odegaard, who's having, in my opinion, an all right season, if that's the biggest conversation that Arsenal have to deal with at the moment, I'd say that's probably quite a good thing.
The reality is the biggest conversation we have to deal with is improving our attack. And it's not, and I feel like people are nitpicking when they're looking at individual players. The whole team as a whole, our attack has been lower because of how teams play us.
Do you think so, Miguel? I think there's a big conversation at the moment about what happens with the goalkeeper, because I think Arteta's caused a little bit of a problem for himself, man.
I think the goalkeeper situation is people just trying to create controversy. Really and truly, I'm over it. I'm over it. I think it's a situation where we know Ramsdale plays in the cup competitions, and in the main games we're gonna have Raya playing for now. And if he changes it based on merit, and we'll see if he changes it. But I'm not too worried about that.
I can understand why the conversation's there. Ramsdale had done very little to be dropped on merit. He made them. I wouldn't even say the mistake was his fault against Fulham, but people will pin that on him, and he was dropped straight away. David Raya has made a number of high-profile errors, some of which have been punished, some of which haven't, and yet he seems to have the unequivocal support while Ramsdale has been relegated to second-choice goalkeeper. This is why I had doubts when it happened, because it's a big decision to make. You can't rotate goalkeepers. He lied when he first got happened and said, it's a 2-goalkeeper system, I don't have a number one, and then very clearly made out who his number one was. And to me, it seems like he's made the wrong decision. David Raya on the ball is not making up for the mistakes he's making. Ramsdale, you know what Ramsdale is going to give you. Is he the best goalkeeper in the league? No. But he's certainly a more secure option at the minute than David Raya. At the end of the day, you've got away with it for certain parts. A lot of teams have got away with mistakes this season. Do you want to keep playing the game where you keep dodging, keep bailing Raya out mistakes? Because right now, pretty much every single game that's getting played, he's the main talking point. Not
Not the
He's not come in and looked great, has he? I mean, like you would have thought that dropping Ramsdale's a good. I like Ramsdale, and I was disappointed that he got dropped for Raya. You would have thought that he's made that huge statement that Raya would have come in and slammed it and looked mint up there with the Allisons and the Edisons, and even Vicario's done well at Spurs. But he's come in. He's looked shaky. That first half against City, he's looked shaky. He's looked shaky in other games, and I just don't really understand why he's made that decision. I think it's pretty harsh on Ramsdale, and I'm surprised there's not more noise coming from the Arsenal fans about this. Maybe if he does make errors, Raya, then maybe we'll get some noise. But I think he's put a lot of pressure on himself, Arteta, making that call. I think it was a bit dumb, to be honest. I just think, why has he done that?
Personally, I like Ramsdale. Don't get me wrong. I like Ramsdale. I wanted him to get an opportunity in the Champions League this midweek, but I just think at this point, Arteta's made his choice, and I think he's just going to stick with it. I don't know why
he has to stick with it, doesn't he? Otherwise,
he does.
I think he's Arteta. If I had to get inside Arteta's head, I think he's looked at it more long term, as in Raya's the keeper that he wants long term for things that he's planning to do in the future. I think there's a
Ramsdale's cut him off. Ramsdale's not having any of that.
I didn't shut down Rory. I didn't do that. I'm sure he'll be back in a few moments. He's back with us now. He's back with us.
But you know something? You're right with the thing where he wasn't dropped based on merit. He just made the change for the Everton game.
Yeah, I think he made the change, and he was going to always stick with it. And I think he's looking at bringing in a more Ivan Toney style centre forward that Raya can go long to, and he backs Raya to do that better than Ramsdale. And at the moment, I think there was a stylistic issue with Ramsdale, where Ramsdale said in an interview that he'd come to a compromise with Arteta about where he'd position himself and stuff like that. I don't think Arteta's a manager that takes compromises. Raya is a player that won't need any compromise, and part of that is causing mistakes at the moment. Like, it's leading to mistakes where Ramsdale, I think, would just clear it.
Who would you rather have in net, Rory? Who would you rather have? I'd rather have Ramsdale, if I'm being honest.
Right now, I'd rather have Ramsdale, yeah. Right now, I'd rather have Ramsdale. But if it's part of a longer term thing, I don't know. The thing is, if it's one of those, like, when would you get rid of if the long term plan is Raya over Ramsdale, there was never going to be a good time or a good way to do it. So
there's certain, I don't think there's many worse ways to do it than how he's done it, though. Just in terms of overall context considered, if the plan is to get a bigger centre forward from to work off of, then you wouldn't start Raya now. Potentially damages confidence, because the media attention, the scrutiny he's getting, whilst he's not allowed to showcase why he was actually brought in, that's not going to help him, because Jesus and Nketiah aren't doing that. Maybe you could have put Kai Havertz up front so you can try and see what Raya's doing. The fact of the matter is, Ramsdale did very little to get dropped.
Yeah.
So when you bring in a goalkeeper like that, then this goalkeeper has to exceed those levels. And in the past 4 or 5 games, I think there's been a high-profile mistake made by Ramsdale, but not all of them have been punished. Just because they haven't been punished doesn't mean they weren't bad. Against City, the Alvarez press. Against Chelsea, that he got lobbed by Mudryk because of his position. And
You mean Raya? You mean Raya? You said
Raya got lobbed by Mudryk because of his position. And whether that's a instruction by Arteta or what, it still happens. Sevilla, the one right at the end of the game, I have no idea what he's trying to do with that punch. That was just kamikaze. And Lens, there was the pass out to Tomiyasu, which hasn't went there. I'm not saying Ramsdale doesn't also make mistakes, but to go back to back like that with the scrutiny he's getting, it just makes it look. It puts that decision to drop Ramsdale for Raya under even more spotlight and under even more scrutiny. And
Arteta's got to do it, because he's come out saying it's to build competition and that. And if you're not going to drop him right now after how he's been performing and the howlers that he's been causing, right? Then you're just lying, then, aren't you? Clearly,
I know.
What's he meant to say? I keep hearing this about what Arteta said. Arteta's not going to come out 3 games into the season and go, yeah, Ramsdale's our number 2. Because if it doesn't work out with Raya, then he's put himself in an awful position where he can't go back to Ramsdale. So,
but he put himself in this position, though, Borough, by buying Raya. When did he really need to? He's put himself in this position by buying a player that did he really?
But you want to know something? Take yourself back 2 weeks ago. We were talking about you can't win the league with Ramsdale. The flip-flopping is crazy.
Why? Who's saying that, though?
Bro,
Well, you almost won it last year. You should have won it last year.
Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football talking
Right, he
about
never won a Premier League, bro. Why listen to
listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. My point was people were saying you can't win the league with a goalkeeper like Ramsdale. He makes too many errors. Now we see two shaky performances, and people are like, "Oh my God, Ray is just as bad." And it's like I don't think that's the truth. I think the situation is people are overlooking at it. The Man City game, he was always going to be shaky, but we still kept a clean sheet. The Lens game, yes, he made a clear mistake in that game, and you can criticize him and crown him for that. The Chelsea game was an absolute fluke that they even scored from that situation. So I'm not going to hold that against him. And in 5 games, he has 3 clean sheets. He only conceded 4 goals, and we're overreacting. Let's not do this. I don't like the fact that it's even this controversy, this back and forth with Ray and Ramsdale every single day. I'd rather just have one keeper and have this conversation sorted.
I agree. That's why I think he's put himself in a bad situation. I got a question, Dom. Would you take him at Chelsea, bro? Ramsdale?
Nah, not for me.
Really?
Not for me. I think his concentration levels aren't the greatest. I think he's a good keeper, but if we want a serious upgrade, I'd go for someone like a Manian. Ramsdale, not for me, man. Not for me. I think he's a good keeper, but not for what I'm trying to build right now.
Interesting. I know Carragher said you can't win a league title with Ramsdale, and to a certain point, I agree. The Ramsdale that was there last year, I don't think you win a league title with David Raya.
They almost won it. They should have won it last year.
No, I know, but I don't think because they should have won it doesn't mean that I think Ramsdale is a goalkeeper that most top sides would have in, and he's a good enough goalkeeper to win certain top sides titles. I don't think he was at the other level of other goalkeepers in terms of certain things mentally. But David Raya, I think David Raya at the minute in terms of confidence, in terms of attributes, is even worse than the Ramsdale we saw last year at certain things, and that's the bigger problem.
By the way,
I want to get to I need to get to super chat just out of interest of time. There's a lot of them to get through, and we've still got the Manchester Derby to discuss. This says, remember the start of the season, people were overreacting over Gabby being dropped. Reyes had 5 games. Can Arsenal fans relax for once in their lives? People want ruthlessness until it's their favorite players. This year says, last year, all I heard was Ramsdale was overrated from everyone. Now he's benched and all of a sudden they rate him. Come on now, keep it consistent. Tevin here says, Ramsdale doesn't follow the instructions the way Raya does. End of. He made errors at the back of last season and he would have hoofed it long too much. Sam here says, right, our fan base very split on the goalkeeper. I like Rambo better, is what he said here. The Glazers are doing daylight robbery at Man United. Well, 17 years of daylight robbery. I know. People saying we should bring Ramsdale back. People are forgetting a lot of the stinkers he had at the end of last season. Also, short memories is what Warren Grant thinks.
Yeah, just quickly.
I'm loving this.
That Anfield game as well. Just quickly, the game at Anfield where he was absolutely exceptional. So people, you can look at the Southampton game where he kicked the ball to the guy, but also remember the game at Anfield, which he was. The Arsenal boys will remember he was incredible that day.
Yeah, it's been both.
I have a feeling it's because Ramsdale isn't focused as much because of his new family member. Just speculation, because there's no reason for merits for him to be dropped. But I don't think it was ever about merit. I think Arteta sees Raya as a better goalkeeper. But this is where we do this sometimes. I don't listen to anything any manager says in their press conferences. Do you know what I mean? There's so much. I'll quote Lee Gunner on this. They all lie, but I don't take their lies as sinister. They just say what they have to because, and if Raya hadn't have made these mistakes, nobody would be challenging anything. And he has, so I get why the story is here. I understand it, but this whole, that's not what he told us in his press conference. You could nitpick everything people say.
I'm just being shameless, Terry, because I told Rory.
No, I know you are.
I'm being shameless. I said it's not looking good for Ramy boy.
They're going through an adjustment period of going from good to great. Teams treat us different. Either we rise to become great or not, is what Jay believes. This flame been fanned by jealousy and non-Arsenal fans like Don and the Spurs lady. Odegaard will be fine, but he is pressed too much. Don't be quiet.
Let me just say something. You guys haven't won anything for me to be jealous. There's no jealousy right now. I'm just speaking about what I've been seeing from Odegaard.
Yeah, and we was just told that Odegaard was far superior to our midfield, Maddison, Basuma, everybody was saying that Arsenal were going to smash us, and all I happened to say was he was invisible against us. So, sorry.
I don't blame people. Off the back of a season where Maddison got relegated and Odegaard had one of the best performances of any midfielder in the league, like coming into this season, I think it was fair to say that Odegaard was better than Maddison.
But sometimes it's best to, you might be saying it in your head, but sometimes it's best to keep your mouth shut and wait and see what happens. Maddison has been sensational and Odegaard's been a ghost.
Yeah, but it wouldn't make great content if we all just kept our mouth shut, would
it?
That's true.
We know Odegaard is not at his level yet. This is why you man should fear it. Watcher is what this guy says. Manny here says, ironic from Don calling Martin Odegaard a ghost, but Chelsea fans parade Enzo being the best creative midfielder in the world. What is it now? 9 games, 0 GA. Behave yourself.
Enzo's been below par this season as well. Like, I'm not going to run away from it.
What about
there we go. Odegaard has been poor all season. Has not been poor all season. That's false. I would say after the PSV game, his form dropped. Before that, he was good. Midfield balance as a whole is off. Enigma here says, sorry, but Ramsdale has ADHD and cannot focus without the opponent fans cussing him.
I'm just trying to think of the errors that he made last season that seem to justify it. Because the idea, I remember the Southampton one is obvious. You can argue the Sporting one where Gonçalves has lobbed him from the halfway line. If you want to count that, you can count that. Are there any other ones that I'm just forgetting? Like in the back in that season, I've wiped from my mind for some reason because I can't think of many. And
can I tell you something? There's a whole thread on Twitter, but I'm not one of these guys who's gonna rip my own players. So if you want to go look at it, you can look at it. But Mikel Arteta has a whole year sample size to make this decision. It's not 3 games.
Yeah. Manny here says Jorginho was not playing through the lines against Chelsea. If you watch the game, it was a lot of sideways passes and Odegaard couldn't get a sniff. It happens. And Kenny here says Odegaard's role changed because we don't have the vertical passing 6. Both Rice and Jorginho are sideways. But Partey back, you will see Odegaard. Don, shut up, is what Kenny.
Well, if you need Partey to unlock you guys, then it's long for you lot because Partey, number one, can't stay fit. Right, and long term, Rice is going to be the guy to play in that hole. So what? So you're telling me that Rice ain't going to be able to find Odegaard going forward? Then you need Partey to play with Odegaard for Odegaard to pop the numbers that he did. I don't agree with that.
No, that's fair. I agree, bro. I think the thing about Partey, that's if you're putting Odegaard up there in that bracket as a world class player, you can't turn around and just be like, oh yeah, we've not got Partey, so obviously his form's going to dip. It's up to Odegaard to find a way to play without Partey. It might be right that maybe he does drop off without Partey, but it's up to him then as a player who's been put in this world-class category to find a way to play without him in the team. I'm with you, bro.
But if Partey comes in, they'll think of something else. They'll think of something else, Lewis.
Fair enough, boys. Big game this weekend. Manchester derby. How you feeling about it? Lewis? From your point of view, coming to Old Trafford, I'm sure there is almost zero fear, zero worry at this moment in time. Should be a relatively, from your point of view, you must be thinking it's going to be a relatively easy day and a simple win.
Yeah. Well, I thought that last year, and that didn't go too well either. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of pressure on the game for City because obviously you expect Arsenal to win in their game against Sheffield United. So they're going to go 3 points ahead of us by the time we play you guys. And listen, obviously, I don't think I'm putting any United players in my starting 11. So, yes, we should win the game. But at the end of the day, as everyone on this panel knows, when you play a derby match, that isn't how the game goes. You know what I mean? Anything can happen. Like last year, you got a stroke of luck with the refereeing decision. But fundamentally, the reason that we didn't win last year, in my opinion, was our back four was shocking. We played Cancelo, Ake, Akanji and Walker. You know what I mean? 4 players, and Akanji was in his first season, who are not great at putting the ball up the pitch. And we had a midfielder dropping deep and Kevin De Bruyne was isolated, and that's why we really struggled. In this game, it's going to be a totally different back four. We're going to have Gvardiol probably playing. He can transition the ball up the pitch. John Stones should play the match. He can do it. Diaz as well. And Kyle Walker will come back into the side. So I expect a completely different game to the one that played last year. Having said that, if Ole decides, not Ole, if Ten Hag decides to go back to counter-attacking football, you guys do have some success with that against us because you sit deep, you make it difficult, and then you hit us on the counter-attack, with the pace. And that's where you've had success with us over recent years. But, I mean, we got to be going there and getting the win because, like I said, I think these next 2 weeks are a couple big weeks for City and Arsenal because obviously Arsenal playing Sheffield United, we're playing Man United, but then next week we play Bournemouth and they play Newcastle. No, Newcastle got injuries, but it's at their place. There's a chance that they could do something there for us. So I think these next 2 weeks are huge. And listen, Terry, mate, I've got to be confident. You know what I mean? I'm confident in the team, but at the end of the day, it is a derby. We'll see what happens. But I'm feeling good, man. I feel like we won't. I feel like I said, I think last year I think Pep maybe got it wrong with the players at the back. And then obviously you got a huge stroke of luck with the refereeing decision. So this year I'm feeling a lot more confident, man.
Yeah, look, I think you should. I think the only way we get anything out of this game is catching you on the counter. We haven't been good enough on the ball this year to think about trying to do it to you guys. I'm worried about us overcommitting and trying to play football because that's where we've been run through this year. I mean, the myth has been debunked that it's Casemiro's fault because it's happened to the midfield in the 2 games in which he's been missing. So yeah, like I hope we do use our heads as a team. I hope that the manager realizes I want to try and play City off the park, but I can't. And we sit in deep, we make it hard, and we try and hit you on the counter. That's the only way we can get a result out of this game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you tried to play football against us at the Etihad last year. We scored 6 goals against you.
Exactly.
The game that you beat us in the league, you sat back, you made it difficult. Our defense didn't have the abilities to play the ball forward, and you managed to get us on the break and score a couple of goals and win the match. Fundamentally, though, this game will be different because our back line will be completely different, and we'll be able to get that ball forward. We'll be able to create, you know what I mean? Because I expect United to sit back again, make it very difficult. We'll be able to get in between the lines and create chances. I don't know. But it's also at Old Trafford, you know what I mean? Are the United fans just going to accept United sitting on the edge of the box and just defending for 90 minutes? Probably not. You know what I mean? I don't expect them to defend that deep. So there probably will be gaps. It's whether or not we can exploit them. I do think, though, we will win this game. And like I said, I think we need to win the game. Arsenal are going to win their game against Sheffield United. So we'll be 3 points behind them by the time we play you guys.
Rivals. I think we would all agree City are the favourites for this game. I don't think a Man United fan would believe you if you said, no, I think you think Man United are. What is the case for Man United winning? Has anybody got one? Can anyone see United pulling this off and getting a win against City? And if so, how?
Counter-attack.
Yeah.
Counter-attack.
Wolves.
You got to beat them on the counter. You got to play a low block defensive football and go back to what you're doing the year before that, even the year before that. Make sure you set up well defensively. Don't play the way you've been trying to play at the beginning of the season where you're trying to play football with with other teams. Don't do that. Just be defensive, lock down, and Rashford suits the counterattack. This could be the game that he gets back into form because the counterattacking football suits Manchester United's players, and that's how you guys have been playing for a majority of the last couple of years. So they're accustomed to that, and it's not a coincidence. When you do play that way, you do get results against Man City.
See, the thing for me, like I think that's the only way you beat City. You're gonna have to counter them. But when I'm looking at the individuals that I would expect to actually cause City problems, they've been underperforming. You know, you've got Bruno, you've got Rashford. These guys aren't, providing that quality that you need in the final third. Even Garnacho, when he came on the other day, Terry, he was quite poor. Do you know what I'm saying? So the only way you're gonna beat them, like I said, is by countering. But I just don't see these guys turning up in this game, even though you're playing at home. Old Trafford has not been a fortress this year. Let's be real about it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I just don't see how you win this game, man. I don't see it. Like Rashford's gonna have to be Rashford of last year. Bruno's gonna have to stop doing this grenade football stuff, and that's the only way. But I just don't see it because these guys are just not playing well right now. They're not.
I just don't. I saying counter attack is fine, and that is the way they should try and set up, but to sit down in a low block to set up the counter, you're inviting pressure on yourself. And I don't think Manchester United's defence is as solid as it was last year. I mean, I have no idea who's going to be at the back of the who's fit, but I think it's going to be someone like Onana, Dalot, Varane, Maguire, Reguilon. That's not a strong defence. In front of it, Amrabat and McTominay. It's not the best midfield duo in terms of setting up deep and then getting the ball up quickly. You might try and change it up, but then you've got to worry about Fernandes and the fact that grenade launcher Fernandes is you're not going to get many opportunities. Is he going to make sure that he gets the right pass, the decisive pass to the player every time?
What do you mean you're not going to get many opportunities? He's the joint highest chance creator in the league this year. You're talking about.
So yes, that's
so you're going to ignore. You're calling. So why is he the only creator?
That wasn't what I meant. I meant he's not going to get many opportunities in this game to create the opportunities in that sense.
Right.
Not that he hasn't done it this season. I mean, in this game up against the Man City, he's not going to get those opportunities. He's not going to get 5, 10, 15. He's going to get a couple, and he's got to make sure that they're bang on.
Terry,
This United team isn't as good as it was last year when they got the results. They don't have the same confidence. They don't, at points, have the same belief. So it would take a minor miracle. I also think City are due a big result because they've had a bit of there's been some critics, there's been some doubts for whatever reason. City like to make statements. I could easily see Haaland just rocking up at Old Trafford against a low block, a couple lucky bounces 1-0, a couple lucky bounces 2-0. This is where he operates.
United are due a big loss, bro.
They're due a big loss. It's over.
Let's be honest though, Haaland has not been his scintillating best. City's attack has not been its scintillating best also. So this is where it might play into Manchester United's hands. Terry, I'm gonna have to go, but I'm just gonna say I want you guys to win 2-1 Manchester United. Let's get it. And Tom, you should be cheering for Manchester United to beat Man City. Obviously, if you want to win the league, we need to see City drop as much points as possible.
I would love a miracle to happen as well, but I don't believe in miracles.
Hey, if you did, you would have won a couple more league titles. Anyways, I'm out of here, guys.
Cheers, Gal. Top man.
Love you, Gal.
You know what about that as well, though, Tom, about the City thing? Is that's just messed my head up. This changing of what the hell? This whole thing as well about the City not being in great form. Like, if you look at the games that we played poorly, Rodri's not been there. You know what I mean? Rodri was back last night. We were very good. He was back against Leipzig a couple of weeks ago. He was very good. Like, Rodri is so pivotal to our team. And actually, I say it on a reg that he's actually a little bit of a problem for us because he's so good that when he's out of the team, we almost don't know what to do because we don't know how to replace him.
He should win the Ballon d'Or because of his importance to Man City.
I
he's
think
the most important player in a treble-winning side. Like, the big thing for me is I wonder. I don't know how well it will work. I'm sure you can tell me. Is there any world where Pep Guardiola lines up with like a back four of Gvardiol, Ruben Diaz, John Stones, Rico Lewis, and just attempts to hold all of the ball with 4 quality players who have it on the ball?
No, because
I know Akanji's decent on the ball, but
yeah.
I think Gvardiol is the best on the ball passer out of the left side of ones.
Passer is. No, I think what he'll do is he'll go Gvardiol left, John Stones, Diaz in the middle, and Walker on the right. John Stones will push into the midfield, and you'll have a back three then of Gvardiol, Diaz, and Walker, which is very strong. And then you'll have a midfield 4 of Rodri, John Stones, probably Alvarez, and maybe Kovacic, and that'll be your midfield 4. The big question for me is who plays left wing, because Jeremy Doku at the moment is absolutely, pulling up trees. I mean, I can't believe how well he started this season. He's terrorizing players, and I think he needs to probably improve his final ball ever so slightly. But the defenders hate playing against him. You can tell that already. But Jack Grealish last night was fantastic. Best game he's played this season. Created, I think, 3 big chances. So is he going to go back to Jack Grealish? Will he play Doku? I'm not sure. And people like to speak about Haaland. And yes, he's missed a few chances. He's still the Premier League top goal scorer. I think he's got 14 goals and assists already this season. So,
ridiculous. The narrative around Haaland is utterly ridiculous. He's on course on his stats. He's on course to beat last season's record. I don't understand the mentality of this. Haaland's not doing that good this year. I mean, what are people watching? Is it because he's not scoring a hat trick every game? I don't understand. I'd kill to have him in the front line.
From what I've seen, it's people. So there was 2 different things at the start of the season. He was scoring goals, but he was also missing some chances, and then it changed to. We didn't create anything for him against Wolves and Arsenal. We didn't create anything. And everyone went, he's not doing anything. Well, as I've said on this show before, that's not what Haaland does. If you want, Haaland is a goal scorer. He stands in the box and he scores goals. If you wanted someone to drop deep, then you should have bought Harry Kane. They're 2 different players. If you don't create chances for Haaland, I'm quite happy to say he's not going to do that much for you because he's not that guy. He's one of the elite goal scorers of this generation. But like I say, now Rodri's back into the team, looks like we are creating chances, and he had like 7 shots last night. So we're clearly getting the ball to him. It's just unfortunate against Wolves and Arsenal we didn't create anything for him, and everyone jumped on his back. But he's still top goal scorer, man.
I just think if United set up to try and hit City on the counter attack with the dropping quality, I'm going to say dropping quality, but I don't think it's the correct word. But the dropping level, that they've experienced from when they done it last year, they just run the risk of City just going no and suffocating them, because if they play Stones, Gvardiol, Diaz, Walker, that's a back three that can sit on the halfway line and just dominate possession and almost annoy Rashford and Fernandes and maybe Haaland and almost just kill the game out of them, because they don't let them see the ball. And you add Rodri in there, who can just recycle possession. They've got Bernardo Silva, you had Jack Grealish, you had Phil Foden, Jeremy Doku, Julian Alvarez. It's a pain to deal with. And I don't think United have the same quality and the same discipline they were last year. And I just think it would be a matter of when City just turn it on in that game. And for the 20-minute spell, United wouldn't be able to keep them out because of just the quality they have. And like I've been saying, City are due a statement win. And I could easily see it being this Old Trafford away against the United side that's a bit iffy at the minute. Just come, they had a good night against Copenhagen, but there was still a lot of question marks about that performance. City come in and just gone 4 or 5.
Terry, can I ask you a question?
I need that.
What are your thoughts on Rashford? Because for me, I've never particularly rated him that highly, and I think last season was a bit of a one-off for him. I think he was exceptional last year, but aside from that, he's never really done it for me. I've never been overly impressed with him. I just wondered what you thought of him.
So I was someone who likes Rashford. Last year was his best season for us, but if you go back and look from when he made his debut, every year he was improving in terms of his outputs and his delivery. The season before last, he had a poor year that year when he was carrying injuries, and everybody said that's his level. But the previous 2 seasons, it was 35 to 40 goals and assists those 2 years as well. So when you actually look at his career, he's had one off year, and he started this season poorly. There's a few things about him that frustrate me, and that's that, one, I don't blame on him. I don't know why he's still being picked. He's not the kind of player who just plays himself out of form quickly. It's something that kind of, I feel like he does better when he gets taken out of the limelight, taken off, can come on from the bench. I don't like I don't care what he's paid. I don't like that element. I also feel that they're asking him to do something different this year, which is trying to create more for Rasmus Haaland. And he's created a few opportunities that Rasmus hasn't taken, but I believe it takes something away from Rashford. And we do the same thing to Bruno Fernandes. This is where I look at Ten Hag as being an issue. Bruno Fernandes, when he's played deeper, Bruno Fernandes has moved out to the right, is an average player. Bruno Fernandes, when he plays off the striker, is one of the best in the world. And against Copenhagen, for one of the first times this season, in the second half, we brought on Eriksen and we just stuck Bruno next to Rasmus Haaland. From that moment onwards, the level of chance creation from him and from the overall team improved massively. We do this too much at Man United, and we have done for a decade. We put square pegs in round holes. Rashford isn't a left midfielder. Rashford isn't a Grealish. Rashford isn't a creator. He is an inside forward who likes to score goals and will pick up on assists. So if you're creating a system where Rashford isn't the final piece of the jigsaw in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net, then don't fucking play him. And that's not, I'm not swearing at UK. We do this too much in football when, yes, some players are excellent and can play 2 or 3 different roles on a pitch to a high level. But just as Lewis just said there about Erling Haaland, if they started trying to play him on the left wing to do Grealish's job, Haaland would be pants. He'd be absolutely pants. So you don't do it as an example. Harry Kane, he can play in the 10 role because he's a great chance creator. He can play as a striker. Imagine playing him on the right wing. And saying, right, he'd put some good balls into the box, but he ain't got the legs to be on the right wing. And this is the issue that I have with now. Some people don't like Rashford, and I appreciate it. But if you play him to his strengths.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You do the same with Bruno. You do the same with, I think you do that with most footballers. And there are a handful of footballers who have the ability to play multiple positions and roles to a very high standard. But there's not very many of them. And that for me is my issue at the moment, is I still feel like Ten Hag is galaxy braining the situation and he's putting square pegs in round holes. Now, that doesn't mean that Rashford shouldn't be dropped, because I don't think he's been good enough. I think he should spend some time on the bench as an example. The issue that you've got is that we don't really have anybody else. You can go, bring him in and he'll do a really good job. So we're struggling massively at the moment. We know there's a much better team out there than we're seeing right now. It was demonstrated last season. when we shocked most people and got into the top 4, won a trophy and got to a final. The manager's made some changes. So far, they're not working. The new signings, especially this year, thus far, have all been average to poor. And again, I put that upon the manager. He has changed the way we play. He's added new players, and that hasn't worked. And subsequently, all the players that started improving last year have also regressed with it. So, yes, I look at the individuals and what they're doing, but you can't not look at the management and the coaching of Ten Hag and say, well, you've made all these changes, mate, and you've got to make this work, because there are players out there that have delivered before. So clearly we know they're good enough to. It's just about getting the system to work. And I feel too much has been changed. And I feel that some of the purchases, Mason Mount's a prime example. Is he already forgot? He hasn't even come off the bench in the last 2 games. Has he already decided that he ain't the guy? That's... Again, I wasn't a fan. I didn't want Mason Mount, but my point is, if the manager's spending £60 million on him, he's got to feature heavily in your mind about how he's going to make your system work. But he's already on the bench and not coming on. All these things, I think, are contributing factors why individuals are not performing. You look at how good Son's doing this year at Tottenham. Part of that is because what Son's really good at is scoring goals. That's it. He's not like he's not Zinedine Zidane on the ball. You've got to make him score goals. And I think that certain players, you just put them in a position where they're good at doing a certain job, and that's it. And we're not getting that right at Man United right now. We're getting it completely and utterly arse about face, and it's impacting us so much in games. And it's frustrating because we can see it as fans, but for some reason, the manager is just, he's not making these changes. In the last 2 games, he's made changes at half-time and kind of reverted a little bit more to what we do so much better. And I just want him to do, that's the only way we win this weekend or get anything, is if we revert to a little bit more how we were last year. We put players in the, not just position, but role in the game needs to be perfect. Stop playing Bruno all over the place. Just look at Portugal. And I know I'm rambling a bit here because it just frustrates me so much. Since Santos left and Martinez has come in, and Bruno's job is now to be much further up the pitch, the guy's outputs for Portugal in the last 9 games are ridiculous. If you compare it to his last 25 games, he's already stripped those numbers. Why? Because that's where Bruno comes alive. And yeah, look, I know he isn't Xavi or Iniesta. I never claimed he has been, but he's Bruno Fernandes, and he'll create an abundance of chances every game if he's played in the right position with the right system. And we're just not doing it for him or Rashford. And it's so frustrating because we have nobody else in the team that can score or create. So if we're not making the system work for them, we're in trouble. We really are.
Yeah, that makes sense. Square pegs in round holes is Tottenham's speciality.
And it's you know what? It's a bit of a big one as well, this one for Ten Hag, because I'm looking at the record. He's won his last 2 Premier League games. Wins this one, won 3 in a row. You start looking at going, people talk about a crisis at Man United, where he's won 3 in a row. But at the same time, if he loses the game, there's a very real chance that United could find themselves 10th by the end of the weekend, which after 10 games, who would have had United down at 10th? I mean, that is a disaster. And at that point, ain't looking good for the Champions League spot. So I think Ten Hag he's got to find a way, hasn't he, this weekend to try and punish.
He has to, because then the other flip side to it, why he's got to win this game, and then you're only 3 points behind the title favourites after 10 games, and suddenly you've almost rescued that start. And Chris here is a Newcastle fan, says United need to choose a style of play and do it every match. I think that's just, I understand that. I understand it, but if you're going to pick a style of play, you have to have the personnel to make it work. So if it's costing us and we keep losing or keep drawing and not playing well, he'll get sacked. So then it becomes pointless. And if the manager's bought a lot of his own players now, and a lot of us were saying earlier on in the season, let's wait till some of them are fit and we see what we look like. And we're not seeing the improvements that we wanted to see. So therefore, my view is, I don't know if we should persevere with this, because I don't want the season to be a complete write-off.
But let me put you up on that though, Terry, just quickly, because I get what Chris is saying here, because the problem, what it sounds like you're saying is, until he gets a full starting 11 of players that he feels can play his style of football, don't do it. Stick with this sort of style of football. And this is where I actually go back to somewhere like last year. And I almost think that United almost overachieved too much, because they did so well in the league. No one expected them to get there. You won the Carabao Cup. You got to the FA Cup final. Last year should have been the year that you're having now, where he was playing the football that he wanted to play. And then this year he built on that. The problem is last year he played a different style of football that no one really expected him to play. It was successful. But now people are saying, we want to see good football. Okay, you want to see good football, it's going to take time. You're probably going to have a rough year. You know what I mean? Arteta's first years, he struggled. Pep's first year, he struggled. So basically, Ten Hag is
maybe. Listen, I get that, and I do get that point, and I've had that challenge before. For me, though, we look so bad. It's so it's not. It's like we're not playing good football, and then we gave the ball away, planning for back, and we conceded. Although we are doing that as well, the football looks bad. The shape's out of place. We're making individual errors. There's very little that's good. So for me right now, I understand everything you're saying, but I can't see what we Spurs. We spoke about Spurs earlier. If Man United score their early chances against them, if Jesus puts that opportunity away, if they don't win the game against Sheffield United, and if Liverpool get the rightful goal, maybe they have 4 defeats instead of none out of 9, right? But I still think Spurs fans would look at the way they're playing and go, we're losing and we're conceding, but I can see what we're trying to do. Right? If I'm being honest with you, I cannot see. I know what he's trying to do, the manager. He's trying to play more ball, trying to have more possession. But I don't feel like any element of it in any capacity is working. So the part of me that feels, part of me, not all of me, scrap it, go back to what was working last year and reformulate a plan for how you want to play. Because at the end of the day, with Man United, we can't just afford to come 10th. We have to try and win while we're in progression. And so far, this attempt he's made, I can't see what he's trying to do. I can't see what he's trying to create.
Because he's not committed to it, bro. That's my
maybe
because he's had the success last year. So if he plays a game and tries to open up and then gets beat, he's probably thinking to himself, like you just said then, if I keep doing this, I'm going to get sacked. You know what? I might just turn back to what has worked. But then people slag him off because, we're not seeing the football that we want to see. I think he's in a really, really difficult position. And this is why I actually think he made a mistake last year. But then people say, how are you saying he made a mistake? He did really well in the league and got to 2 cup finals. But this is the sort of problem that he's put himself in.
Maybe you're right.
I think the issue United have got is this pre-season, what didn't go as planned. In a sense that I don't think he got everyone in when he needed to. You played such a defensive, pragmatic style last year to go, and I've been saying this, not only did you play it last year, your entire squad has spent the past 4 managers playing pragmatic football. Mourinho, Solskjaer, Rangnick, and now Ten Hag. The last manager who tried to play possession-based attacking football for a short period of time was Van Gaal, and even he reverted to a more pragmatic style that focused on counter-attacking and defending. Your players, your entire squad has done that for years now. To make a switch to a more possession-based, dominant style is going to take a while, and you need to get your players in early. Onana didn't come in until very late in pre-season. Haaland didn't get a pre-season at all because of injury, and you didn't get him in until earlier. Mason Mount had a iffy pre-season. Amrabat didn't get a single pre-season minute because you waited until deadline day to get him. You've had your defensive injuries, which I think do need to be, addressed, and that is a fair reason as to why I think build-up play could have been damaged. But I think Ten Hag has a decision to make in the coming weeks, whether to stick it out with this style and hope these players learn it on the job, or what I think you should do, scrap it, go back to what worked last season, go back to what these players' comfort zone is, and then have a much better pre-season next season. Get your signings in before pre-season and spend the entirety of pre-season teaching these players how to play your system, because look, this pre-season, it just seemed very broken, very janky. I mean, Sancho was playing false 9 and everything. It was just...
I do hear you. I hear you on that. And that's why, again, I'm talking about like what's going wrong now. We all know that a lot of this stems to how we're run as a football club. And these things have been an issue for a long time. We've got some super chats here before the end of the show. First one says, if Arsenal draw or lose versus Sheffield United, heads roll.
Yeah, get Arteta gone. Get them all.
Yeah. You know what, Terry? Put Maguire in, please. Maybe it will work this time. Oh, look, we ain't got many other options. He's playing well. We ain't got many other options anyway, so it is what it is.
Have you seen that stat of Maguire where it's like, out of his last 17 games he started for United, they've won 16?
Yeah,
and it's like some stat that tries to say he's the best centre-back they've got.
But yeah, most of those games are against teams that would currently sit in the bottom 5 and or get relegated. But who's counting? Man City fan talking about Odegaard and Partey, as in you've got to learn to play without Partey. How's Haaland been without Rodri? Players need others around them to make them better.
I'd say it's slightly different, but
very different. Like they lose that balance without him. You've still got balance with Jorginho and Rice.
Also, I'd say Odegaard as a more of an attacking midfielder, has more sort of freedom, and he can drop deep if he wants to try and collect the ball. You know, at the end of the day, we're talking about a midfield player who's meant to be world class. You know what I mean? Like, I think Odegaard, if he wants to be in that bracket, needs to sort of help himself on that.
Who says who's meant to be world class? Odegaard.
Well, Arsenal fans put Odegaard
that's
as world class. And last year he had a very good season. You know, this is what happens if a player has a good season, and the year after they don't perform at the high level, people are going to question them because
he's not even close to being world class.
This year, so since 90% of the revenue is from commercial and broadcasting, if you watch any more United games this season, you support the Glazers. And also, United just reported record revenues. I'm sure if we just insult the Glazers enough, they'll act against their interests and sell. Now, this comes from Mr. Thomas, who is a constant supporter of the Glazers and doesn't feel that they should ever be blamed for the way the club is run, and it should always be the players and the manager. This is a call out to me because I tweeted earlier that because we've got record revenues again, and I've just said that anyone supporting the Glazers, this is partly on you. You are right, 90%-ish of the revenues come from commercials and broadcasting, but 63% come from commercials and match day. That's controllable by us because Man United fans cancelling their Sky subscriptions isn't going to impact clubs getting paid because it's contractual, as an example. But we can impact because sponsors are done on quotas and they're based on how many clicks and how many widgets are sold, as an example, as we know by shirts. And obviously, match day revenue is very, very simplistic. So, if you want to get technical with Mr. Thompson, then I disagree. Fans can make a personal impact on those things. But there we go. I know you love the Glazers. I know you don't think they're the problem at Manchester United, and you keep tweeting about it. But if you want to show your face on camera and have a debate with me, also I've got a City fan who's coming on to debate me tomorrow to say that the ball never touched Grealish's hand in the box yesterday. That's going to be really interesting when we show the footage. He's coming on to tell me it didn't hit his hand, and I'm like, I'm just going to show the video and then say goodbye. That's all I'm going to do. Question to you all: what do you think of Aston Villa, and will they win a trophy? I'll throw that one to Rory.
I mean, they could win. They could win the European trophy. I think that's what Unai Emery will go for. It's what he's a specialist in. And to be honest, I think they could get fifth. I think that Champions League spot. They're sat there at the moment. I think it's up for grabs. Them, Chelsea.
There we go. Terry, name me one thing Ten Hag has done in the game other than win Mickey Mouse trophies in Holland. Okay, so you want me to ignore what he has achieved because he's won one trophy in one season in England. It's not that bad. Again, if we can't use his career before the Premier League, fair enough. But what's weird, you're throwing that at me, is I've not sat here defending Ten Hag. I've been sitting here criticizing. Again, I don't mean this rudely, but it's going to sound rude. Sometimes I don't. Well, some of you dropped on your head by your mums when you were babies because. Like, imagine me sitting there for 10 minutes criticizing the manager, and then you throw out a chat, which is acting like I've defended him. It's so weird. It's so strange. Honestly, there must have been dropped on their heads. Had to have been. It's the only thing that makes sense. But look, I want to thank Kate and Tom and Don, Lewis, Igal, and of course Rory for coming on. Jay's actually just super chat before the end there. He says, as an Arsenal fan, we don't have a single world-class player yet. Rice and Saka are very close, but not yet. Give me Champions League or Premier League, then I'll say yes.
Add Saliba to that as well.
Saliba could be as well, absolutely. Listen, people, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. We're back tomorrow with Straight Facts with Don Hassam and something else. Oh, yeah, Spurs match reaction in the evening it will be. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again.